A beautiful morning to you. Welcome to the morning brief right here on Channels Television. We're here again, your tea, your coffee, whatever you want to call us. Good morning again. I'm Anne Nwawaju.
Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey. For the first time, you're seeing us in split because someone is in diaspora.
Someone abandoned us.
Now we introduce him. 3, 2, go.
Go, Joe.
And I'm live in the nation's capital, Abuja, not to the nation's commercial capital, Kayode Kikilu, and it's absolutely beautiful here in Abuja, guys.
Kayode, we're beefing you. You know why, right? Well, we'll try to maintain steez and just manage you for today. But, well, we're here again, Nigerians, and thank you so much for joining us. You know how we start your day for you. So if you're just waking up, if you're just being lazy like some of us this morning, just get up and get something done today, all right? So it's going to be a fantastic show. We promise you. Kayode is in Abuja. Jeff and I are holding it down here, right here in Lagos. And I think the weather has been a little bit good for us. I don't know if you noticed it, Jeffrey.
I know you like this kind of weather.
Yeah, very cold.
I know.
Because I hate it. I can't stand it.
I know you don't like heat, but hey, it's what it is. I was watching something that was happening in China, and I think I made reference to it, but I had to see the video yesterday. And I said, what in the world is going on? Extreme heat, literally. It could literally burn off the surface of some plastic and ruin cars. I understand that even older people, from the video I saw, older people making their way to malls and all of that just to cool off.
Yes.
Because they said the younger ones will be in their house on their air conditioner, but they said, nah, we won't spend that money. So they flood these places. So it was quite interesting to see that video. And just to tell you that global warming, although there's a lot of politics here and there in between all of that, but this is reality we're facing. We're all in this together. So everyone out there has to be careful, keep warm, drink loads of water. And if you have to bath with hot water, do that as much as possible. And don't overindulge in things that could hurt your health. As a matter of fact, because health is one of the conversation, literally some of the biggest conversation we'll be having today on the program. Kayode.
Indeed, Jeffrey, and it's quite, well, it's worrisome. Well, it's been growing, actually. But you find out that in China, for example, you have flooding in some parts. You have extreme heat in other parts. We could talk about what's playing out in Greece with the extreme heat as well. So it's definitely something to keep our eyes on and pay attention to. Sometimes we say here in Nigeria, we have the very best of weather, but that's not a reason to just fold our arms and get carried away. It's important that we always stay ahead of these things. Yes, we have great weather, but we should not be caught napping, guys. But again, the weather is good today. Let's make the most of it. It is Wednesday, midweek, and we tell you that this is the right way to start your day here on Channels Television.
Yes, it's definitely the right way to start your day. And as Jeffrey had said earlier, I mean, we're talking health today, something that concerns everybody, whatever it is, wherever you are. As a human being, health is your concern. It's a matter that everyone should be talking about, and the best way to improve it in any way is what we'll be discussing on the show today. So, Jeffrey, I guess we should go to what we have for
before we go to what we have, I'm still complaining to
What are you complaining about?
I'm complaining to the Ogun State government.
Okay.
You know, there's the part I call the Lagos axis. I know Kayode doesn't, you will not feel that in Abuja because the roads are cool. This new garage area where you drive in either from Isheri area or you drive out into Ojodu, that area as you're driving out from the Isheri area, or you're coming from Omole Phase 2, or you're coming from Ojodu, you decided to take that particular route, wherever you're coming from, outbound Lagos, I realized that those guys are unrepentant. I don't know what the law enforcement has to do. So you're driving, you're about to drive into the expressway, but these guys stop just by literally sometimes even to the second lane. So you're forced to go to literally the third lane. This is an expressway.
You mean the yellow buses?
Yes, the buses, the commercial vehicles. And that could be dangerous because at the end of the day, and I literally want to plead with those who cross at that particular point, because when you're driving out, you're literally concentrating on your left to be sure that, of course, buses are blocking you here. Some are blocking you here. In fact, 2 are blocking. So you're literally concentrating on your left to be sure that nothing comes to hit your vehicle. And then so you may not pay attention to the human beings trying to cross. So it's just a chaotic situation. I call it the Ogun axis of Lagos.
Lagos.
Something has to be done before casualties are recorded, because if a driver hits anybody there, something may not entirely be the driver's fault. So everybody, first of all, slows down as much as possible to avoid that situation. But that is not good at all. All right, let's get straight to it.
Well, we hope the law enforcement agencies, whoever is concerned, is listening to this, and maybe something is done as soon as possible to avoid any chaotic scene.
Absolutely.
All right, they say health is wealth. So on the show today, our discussions will be centered on matters that affect all of us as human beings, and that is health.
We'll begin our conversation on the new national policy on healthcare migration and aimed at tackling the challenges facing the country's health human resources, a policy that seeks to manage and reverse the migration of healthcare workers. The question remains, how possible is it going to be to reverse this jackpot syndrome? Because loads of our healthcare workers have been, in Nigerian term, jackpot, and that means they've been leaving for greener pastures, especially to the UK. What will this do? What will this policy do to make a difference in reversing that trend? That's the question today. Absolutely.
Well, Kayode.
That's not all. We also pay attention to the challenge of kidney diseases, particularly in Yobe State. But of course, that is not limited to Yobe State. So what exactly is causing this ugly trend of kidney disease? It's something worrisome, something that we're going to be, of course, exploring this morning to ensure that you are healthy and whatever food you're taking in is the very best.
All right.
Absolutely. So that's some of the outlook we're going to be having on the program today. Loads of things. So big issues around health. First of all, we're talking about that reversal. The federal government is bothered that over 5,000 in excess have left this country between 2015 till now. What can we do? And this chronic situation of kidney diseases, what is driving it? So we'll talk about all of that on the program today. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, Anne is going to bring you our top stories. Then we'll get to the conversation for the day. Join us again.
So welcome back. It is still the morning brief right here on Channels Television. And right now we're going to give you the top stories and stories that have been trending since yesterday. So we begin with a vote of confidence passed on President Bola Tinubu by the National Council of State for what it describes as the achievements made in the last 1 year. The council passed the vote during its first meeting under the administration of President Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has signed the Judicial Office Holders' Salaries and Allowances Amendment Bill into law. Well, the special advisor to the president on Senate matters, Senator Bashir Lado, disclosed this in a statement in Abuja. According to Mr. Lado, this is a manifestation of President Tinubu's unwavering commitment to the welfare of Nigeria's workforce and judicial office holders. He asked judicial office holders in the country to redouble their efforts in ensuring that justice is served and speedily. And the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, is charging agencies and parastatals under his ministry to give priority to the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. He gave the charge while signing performance bonds with heads of agencies at the ministry's ministerial retreat, also in the nation's capital, Abuja. Well, let's talk politics now. And the All Progressives Congress, the APC, got a boost with its membership as it's received some top politicians in Edo South Senatorial District, including a former House of Representatives member, Omosede Igbinedion, into its fold. The decampees from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, were received during a mega rally for Edo South. It was held in Benin City, the Edo state capital, where APC chieftains in the state reeled out the benefits Edo people stand to enjoy if the party is giving their vote. Barely 24 hours after being sacked by the State High Court, the former caretaker committee chairman of the Rivers State APC, Mr. Tony Okocha, is canvassing support for President Bola Tinubu. Mr. Okocha led a mega rally of the Renewed Hope family from across the 23 local government areas of the state. The crowd marched from the Port Harcourt Polo Club along Aba Road down to Port Harcourt Club in Old GRA. While addressing the people, Mr. Okocha accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara of sponsoring the End Bad Governance protest in Rivers State.
The man who funded, the man who sponsored, the man who held midnight meetings with the youth, I refuse to call them hoodlums, is the person, the only person that benefited from the 10 days of inactivity in Nigeria, particularly in Rivers State. Did you see that? Yes, sir. On the fourth day that youth gathered, the governor had the presence of mind to take the road through, to tell the youth that he will pass their message to Mr. President, assuming and absorbing himself from the rubbish in issue. And to also tell you, I'm sure you all remember, you all saw him. I'm not the one now saying it. You saw when the governor said that he will give them something for pure water and what? This is the Tinubu's family in Rivers State. The Tinubu's family in Rivers State is under the leadership of His Excellency Esewonye Sowike, CON, GSSRS, the Right and Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. You can see what I'm wearing. What is this? 002. What does it mean to you? There is a 001. We represent 001. He's very much aware that his family in Rivers State, as peaceful as we are, that will be out here today to show support, to raise support for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, has been speaking on some of the new reforms in the sector. Professor Pate explains that the new policy measures will certainly enhance the welfare package of health workers and healthcare delivery in Nigeria. He was a guest on our political program, Politics Today. The organized labor in Nasarawa State have asked Governor Abdullahi Sule to wait for the template from the federal government before the payment of the new minimum wage to workers in the state. The governor had expressed willingness to pay the 70,000 naira minimum wage with the arrears of 2 months. The unionists made their position known in a meeting with the governor at the government house in Lafia, the state capital. And the former Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, John Cardinal Onaiko, is asking politicians to give young people a chance to lead the change they desire. He stated this at the National Christian Peace Summit, which was organized to mark the International Youth Day in Abuja.
If you understand what is happening all over the country, that there's a movement, there's protest, there's so many things because people are not happy. And the only people who can move the country well are Christians through Muslim youths who can stand and say, we want it this way and not that way.
All we want is peace in our country, because without peace, there will be no development. I therefore call on our youth to give peace a chance in Nigeria.
Our young people must be equipped with the skills and with a mindset to innovate. This requires a holistic approach to the education that goes beyond traditional academic learning. We need policies that support youth entrepreneurship.
The young people want to participate, to contribute, and they're full of energy to act for peace and development of the nation. They have not been given adequate attention, sufficient space, encouragement to come out on their own and do things the right way.
We all have a role to play. The older generation, the new generation, and those to come. We must create a platform where that dialogue takes place so that we're able to have a smooth transition.
And talking about dialogue, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edu, has called a high-level meeting to implement President Bola Tinubu's order for the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, the NNPCL, to sell crude oil to local refineries in Naira, that's Nigeria's local currency. The meeting, which includes key figures such as Petroleum Minister, the CEO of NNPCL, the FIRS chairman, focused on overcoming long-standing challenges in the petroleum sector and enhancing local refinery capabilities. According to the Ministry of Finance, this initiative is set to empower local refineries and stimulate growth. An outsider shows Ukraine says it is not interested in holding Russian territory, though it now controls 74 settlements in Kursk region, which it invaded just last week. The region's governor had debunked Ukraine's claims on the number of settlements, saying that Ukraine only controls 28 of them. Ukraine has insisted, however, that it will continue its offensive until Russia agrees to a just peace. The Olympic flag has arrived under bright skies in Los Angeles, where officials now have only 4 years to organize the Games, capable of rivaling the widely praised Paris edition in a notoriously traffic-clogged metropolis. Well, the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, landed in a plane with palm trees and the logo LA 2028, and of course, crossed the tarmac holding the 5-ring banner, accompanied by several U.S. athletes. And in 4 years' time, we'll be looking at how that will turn out. Will Los Angeles do better than Paris? Well, I guess Jeffrey will come on to tell us whether that can happen. But those are your top stories for today. So thank you so much. I'll invite Jeffrey now. Let's talk about what you've been talking about in trending stories.
Absolutely. So Los Angeles has shown us that. Are you guys ready for showbiz?
Showbiz. You know how LA is.
Yeah, it has moved from the city of lights to the city of light. Yes, that's what
call it.
To the city of angels. So ooh. America is saying if you thought that Paris could top it, just wait for 4 more years. But I was so proud of what the French government was able to do. It was unprecedented what they did. The opening ceremony usually is inside the stadium, but they literally say, if you've never been to Paris,
then we'll show you Paris.
Is Paris. And so everybody wants to see a bit of Paris.
I also like the fact that they had lots of challenges with the water, with the river, but they all sorted it.
Absolutely.
And at least they did the best they could.
So River Seine was, I saw a movie and that movie kept playing in my head. Because I don't want to go there. But at the end of the day, it was successful. So let's see let's look out for what the Americans will bring to the table, but trust them. Hollywood is going to come full blast. Another thing you read on news, just before we get to the top star, what people are saying, which is going to form part of our conversation, is what is going on in River State. It is amazing. I heard the caretaker chairman that is saying the honorable minister is the leader, their leader in this. He's an APC member. Yes, on Wiki, at least we know he's a PDP member.
Will the drama ever stop?
We say it's a theater of the absurd in River State. But hey, it's politics. But let's tell you what you've been talking about. One of the first things you've been talking about on X is that the federal government approving the national policy to address health workforce migration.
Yeah.
In simple English, the boys and the guys and the ladies, I mean, the health workers have been migrating for greener pasture. And of course, the government is not comfortable. So this policy is supposed to help reverse that trend. So Owana Imoyin Wang says, this is a smart move from the Honorable President. These experts can help contribute amazing support for our Nigerian doctors, thereby increasing the well-being of the country. This decision is good and will reduce death rates, health status of citizens. Maybe Jagaban isn't bad as we all think it
all
is.
right.
Okay.
Ben
I'm sure
Samuel.
that's not a supporter of the president. Maybe he's thinking differently now.
Ben Samuel, that's Flourish 007, says that I assume this only applies to federal and state universities, but even so, it's a dangerous move by a government that has neglected to invest in health and social care sectors or adequately compensate doctors and nurses.
All right, so this is coming from, George Lambert. It says, isn't this a ploy to stop health practitioners from leaving the country? If I may ask, what is the government doing to help them through school?
All right. MC Sir Cosmos says that Lamba, you know what Lamba means, yeah? Visits any healthcare facility in any local government and be shocked at its state. Leave the workforce, fix the facilities, and provide equipment first. Everything should not be subject to propaganda.
Okay, so one of the advice we'll give, take a look at the provision of that particular health policy. So let's look at one of the things I know is written one for one, more like if you want to take one, if the person is publicly trained, you give us, you train one of us. So there's a fine detail. We're going to get all of that detail as we get all of them. But it's there for you to, it's a public document now, so you get a look at it and make sense of the situation. Adedeji, AP Adedeji says, FG is busy approving 300% pay rise for judicial workers, but can't do same for lifesavers. Do same for doctors. Okay, I know Ali Party has mentioned this in one of our conversations we had with him some time ago, that will be looked into. So let's hope that will be looked into as pretty, because their welfare, their workload, the resources they work with, there's a lot to do. It's not just talk shop. There's a lot to do.
And before they can bring people back, I mean, you have to convince them that there's something on ground. So we'll talk about that anyway.
When people are earning in dollars and pounds. So, but we'd like to see it happen, to be fair. Okay, the controversial one that happened yesterday was the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission coming out to say, look, let's be clear on what senators earn, slightly over ₦1 million in their salaries and allowances. Allowances are in two parts. There's a regular allowance and there's a non-regular allowance. So they quoted Senator Obasani, who had mentioned that in the 8th Senate they were earning 13-point-something million, which has always been a controversial issue in running costs.
Yes.
And then salaries were about $750 then and all of that. But they were silent on that running cost. They talked about the regular allowances that is captured in the 1 million, and then the non-regular allowance that's like housing or something like that.
Other allowance.
That comes to even car. There's optional and payable. It comes to about 20 million. So, but they were silent on the running cost. That is the argument. The running cost to the senators and lawmakers, do they retire it and all of that? But this is what you're saying. Onungene Ezechuku says Nigerian police and other. Am I reading the right thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Nigerian police and other security personnel earn what? Teachers and lecturers can earn what?
Health specialists.
Health specialists earn what? These people are highly valued abroad because they are the reason society is surviving.
All right. Olamide says that why 70,000 naira is 70,000 naira is minimum wage for every Nigerian worker. They should earn, at worst, they should earn wage of a permanent secretary. So you're talking about the wages that.
So the fiscal commission should come and tell us how much the legislature earn in running costs right now. Whether it's 18 million, 20 million, we don't know.
Or is it the one?
Remember that Dogara, former speaker, said his entire money for a month is about 25 million plus his 400,000 naira salary. So that running cost is what Nigerians are quarreling with.
All right, this is coming from Igono Matthias. It says that allowances is 30 times their salaries. Stop gaslighting us. We know how the system is, and which is what we're talking about here. So it's not about that salary. It's about the allowances and every other thing that comes with it to make it that amount. That is what Nigerians are talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure that at some point, maybe if we have those slides, we'll show you what they are saying. They actually gave a breakdown. Jude Igede says they should show us their paycheck. Nigerian lawmakers earn way more than that. So let's put this in context. Their salaries and all of that is public knowledge. So the people that said this thing have said they earn slightly over $1 million in salaries and regular allowances. But there is the non-regular allowance. Let me even see what I can even see it. Yes. Yeah, I think I've gotten there. Furniture allowance, 6 million. Severance gratuity.
Monthly.
No, that's for
yearly.
every 4 years. 4 years.
Okay.
4 years. 6 million furniture allowance. Severance gratuity, 6 million for the 4 year they'll be there. So it's not like they're paying you every month. And then vehicle allowance, they say this one is a loan that is repayable. So, but it's optional. 8 million. If you calculate that, which is a non-regular, is about 20 million. But this is for 4 years or for a term. But the regular one that comes to them every month, the salary and allowance regular is 1.something million. So it's slightly over 1 million naira. But they have what they call the running cost. And Sheikh Usani said, as at the 8th Senate, the running cost was 13.something million. And of course, it might have increased to maybe 15. So I needed to let the audience
to break
understand
down the salary and the allowances and the difference between both, so that we know what we're fighting for at the end of the day.
They're not asking questions about your salaries. They're asking questions about
the allowances. This breakdown, the one that results in 25.
The running cost.
The running cost, which is 25-point-something million. That's what Nigerians are talking about. So this one is coming from Emeka Oraneche, which is about President Tinubu approving 300% salary increase for judicial officers. We saw that happen. We saw the signing and all of that. And judicial officers are probably happy with this one. So he says that why so much emphasis and importance to judiciary by this administration? What about health workers and teachers?
Well, the government will answer why they are focusing on judiciary. Bob Eckert says this is a good one. It's long overdue. A lot remains to be done to stop the nation's bleeding, and I doubt the government is serious enough.
Moss Berry says that while secondary school teachers are still being paid 30,000 as monthly salaries.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Bernard Wells, congratulations to judicial officers. Some may have contrary opinion to this, but it is a good development.
And Matthew Oraki says that how many times will their salary be increased in 1 year? Haba, don't tell me this government doesn't know what it is doing.
Okay, to provide answer, I don't speak for the government, but we're here to provide content. So it was proposed, the president just signed it. So this is the second time you're hearing it, but this is just the signing and all of that. But people are saying health workers who are critical to development, teachers, what is happening to those ones? Why judicial?
Some would also argue with you that judicial officers should also be paid well, so that issues of corruption,
they will not be
issues
susceptible.
Of you understand.
So Rivers Youths and other statesmen commends the 2 million man solidarity walk for President Tinubu. I guess they're talking about the Tony Okocha protest. No march. It wasn't a protest. It was a march yesterday where it talked about supporting President Bola Tinubu and that Nyesom Wike is their leader. He was the caretaker chairman of APC, for God's sake. But Nyesom Wike is their leader.
Anything happens in politics, Jeff. I'm sure you know that by now.
So that's that. They're the ones that were marching yesterday, just a day after he was sacked as CTC chairman. Okay, Sebastian Ekpenyong says this would have been a great work if done willingly and sincerely without any financial inducement. Okay, you have to provide evidence to that. I just hope we don't hear some people weren't paid the money promised to them at the end of the match. Similar to the protests against protests, that was later known otherwise.
All right, Godly only says that are they also not infringing on the rights of others by preventing vehicular movement? You all only pick the side that favors you. I guess this is talking about the End Bad Governance protest and how it's related. So, if you tell us that we are blocking the road and we shouldn't do it, or telling us, oh, this is the only space you can do this, then why are you doing this? I guess that's what
I think it's a very important point. There was a lot of hula baloo a lot of
them.
screaming from the government and everyone about the End Bad Governance protest. End Bad Governance just ended on Saturday.
Yes.
So they told Okocha right to the police. Was there any concern? And all of that. They went to march on the street. There was no shout of any form. So these are the things we talk about, government and optics. It looks like you pick and cherry pick and choose how you want to respond to those things. So government, you have to answer to this gentleman who is asking that question. All right. Ade Samuel Energy, what is the reality of things? Okay, and I think you have the next one.
All right. Ade Samuel Energy says that what is the reality of things on ground? Hunger and suffering. They will march and go back to face their hunger and suffering. All right.
Okay. All right, so that's it for.
No, let's continue with the Lagos State government as it seizes. This sounds interesting. Lagos State government seizes alcoholic drinks from street traders to curb drunk driving. And then you begin to ask, is this the first step? What has been done to see if this will work or if it will not work? What are the options for street traders? Those are the questions to be asked. Sunny Day started with this one by saying, what do you expect them to do now? You can't provide them with good paying jobs. Now they decide to hustle on their own, and you're doing this to them. That's talking about alternatives. When government takes decision, are there alternatives for these people?
It's like a devil between the devil and the deep blue sea. On one hand, you don't want people drunk and driving. On the other hand, you don't want to cut out legitimate means of livelihood. So, oh boy,
it's really difficult.
Anyway,
you know.
Dankura 20, they should close the alcohol companies first. You know, this thing has been an ongoing argument about these producers of sachet alcohol. We've had them here on the program and all of that. And you have the next one.
All right. Damsot says that this is not even the best option. Okay. Ade Adebi also says seized alcohol from street traders or arrest drivers for for drinking and driving. Well.
All right, so those are the ones who have been tracking for you, the thoughts you've been bringing to us on X, and of course, keep them coming, and we will reiterate again about that march in Port Harcourt. Because the reason I had to go back there, you know what happened with
just like this Port Harcourt?
No, it's not because I was born. No, it's to be fair to all. It's to be fair. You know what happened with the End Bad Governance? I was interviewing Tony Okocha yesterday, and I said, is this just a knee-jerk approach because you were removed? He said, we've been planning this, wouldn't have just
happened.
Why did they allow them to march? Why didn't they tell them, hold off? Why didn't
they designate a place for them to
Why did they designate a place for them to say, okay, go to Dokia Miesimaka Stadium or go to Yakubu Stadium or and stay there because of this can be hijacked? All of a sudden, it cannot be hijacked. So this is the sentiment that the people convey that we're helping you to understand as government. These are the optics. You must check it and be fair to all. And that'll be all right.
Yes, that's all. But we will be back shortly. You remember we told you we're talking about health. So we have a lot of experts and, of course, stakeholders to tackle the Yobe disease, which is kidney disease affecting not only Yobe State, but other parts of Nigeria. And, of course, the brain drain in the health sector. So stay with us.
It's called Health Workforce Policy of Migration. It's a policy of managed migration. It has a forward, the background, the various chapters, all that I've laid out for you, including those who have been consulted in development of this policy up to its approval. On the ministry's website, we're streamlining because it's a large document, so it is easily downloadable, but it's available document and has gone through iterations of consultations with key actors, with key professional bodies, with health workers from all across the country, as well as other ministries. And it's, on one hand, focuses on health, but it's connected to wider effort of the Nigerian government to deal with the problem of migrations, how we harness this potential as a country that has a lot of youth, some of whom are in school, are learning, and they have high aspirations. We think we're the country of the future. How do we harness this demographic potential? I think you'll find that almost 17,000 have been trained over the last 5 years. More than half of them have left. So the younger doctors tend to be trained and they leave because there's demand elsewhere. They want to be better trained and they see the challenges that we face as a country. So this policy is to try to address that so that we retain, provide the services the Nigerians need, while in a way making it easier for those who have gone to be able to come back. And over time, for our health system to be one that in a way, provides less push for them to leave, despite the pull that they have from the more advanced countries.
Well, the minister has asked Nigerians to take a look at that policy, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're breaking it down for you. What exactly is this national policy on health workforce migration in Nigeria all about? Well, let's find out this morning. We're joined on the program by the National President, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria, public health policy analyst. He holds a PhD in molecular microbiology and a fellow West Africa Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science. Dr. Kasmir Ifeanyi is right here in our Abuja studio. Good morning, Dr. Ifeanyi.
Friday, good morning. How are you?
And joining us via Zoom is Dr. Emeka Orji, former national president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. He joins us from Enugu. You're welcome to the program, Dr. Orji.
Thank you for having me.
Essentially, what we're doing essentially is to take a cursory look at this new policy. When a lot of people hear about the health workforce, they think about doctors alone, but the health workforce is all encompassing. You have not just doctors, nurses, midwives, you have medical and laboratory scientists, you have physiotherapists, and so much more. So we're trying to bring at least some of the angles to this particular matter. But since the minister said, let's take a look at that policy first, let's just do that. Now, this policy focuses on some key areas, issues like incentives, health workers' safety capacity development, strengthening health workforce education and training, health diplomacy, ethical recruitment and equality. It also touches on research, innovation and strategy, as well as governance and leadership, of course, monitoring and evaluation. But let's keep to the big one, the elephant in the room, which is incentive. That is at the heart of this JAPA situation. Now, some of the issues laid out in that policy, which we'll be breaking down, is periodic review of healthcare workers' salaries, benefits, pensions, and allowances. That's on the one hand. Then federal and state governments will develop a special incentive program for all health workforce serving in rural and underserved areas, as well as easy access to special credit facilities, tax holidays, and all other issues regarding incentives. There's also talk about equipment and the rest. But that's just to give you a sense of what the government is thinking regarding incentive, which is a big one. So let me start from Dr. Ifeanyi here in our Abuja studio. I know you'll have gone through that. You know, health workers are big on documents and going through the letters. What was your immediate reaction to the policy?
Good document, quality document, but there are lots and lots of gaps. And for me, the document is good, but it remains work in progress because very many details are not contained therein. The work condition, what we call conditions of service, are not contained in that policy. They are available at the service points, at the facilities. So how will this policy document dovetail into extant conditions of service? Now, that document also, I took time in the night. It's about a 56-page document. I took time to browse it. And I discovered that there are areas of weaknesses. And in your intro this morning, you harped on some of them. If they have passed the buck to state governments to to implement aspects of the policy, and it is left for them to implement if they think they have the resources, we are going to have issues. Now, the point need to be made clearly. You talked about the big elephant in the room, incentives. In that policy document, the incentives are not clarified. The point need to be made, we need to have a backdrop. Why are Nigerians living in droughts? Particularly healthcare workers, healthcare professionals. Why are they leaving? Where are they going to? What is the difference? Can we contrast effectively the reason that where they go to is supportive, is receptive, whereas in country they have the urge to just leave, Last week I had a need to refer someone to see a gastroenterologist, a consultant. And I thought in Abuja, being a mega city, you will have them in their numbers. The last places I knew we had some. I reached out to them and I realized that at that top level of care, that top level of specialty, that they are all going. So there's something that is not keeping them here. And let me make a clear-cut analysis.
Right.
If you go to the UK as a consultant and you're able to earn, for instance, £6,000, I'm being very conservative here, per month, and you stay in Nigeria and you don't earn as much as 1.5 million. 1.5 million is less than 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
So what will force you to remain here? In fact, 1.5 million is in the neighborhood of 500 to 700 pounds. So why would you want to stay here? Now, when you stay here and you work, you are not safe. Healthcare workers, healthcare professionals are prey to kidnappers. Sometimes they are just assassinated. So there are more to the policy document that will help indeed retain. The intention, the objective of this document is to retain our best hands here in country, doctors, nurses, medical laboratory scientists, to care for our people. We feel that we train them and they are poached, they are taken away, and so the resources expended by the nation training them is somewhat lost.
Right.
It's not entirely lost. I think that this document should have factored what I consider the brain gain. Today, with the data showed on your slide, we have very many doctors in different parts of the world. Many of them had gone on to acquire cutting-edge skills and knowledge that are not commonplace in Nigeria. So what are we doing to see if we can indeed reverse this incentive to bring them to come home?
And I think the document also speaks on issues of diplomacy, ensuring that there's adequate data that they can tap into. In fact, the document compares Nigeria to India, saying that there are lots of Indians out there, but the difference between Nigeria and India is India has data, so they're able to leverage on those numbers and then, of course, bring that technology back home. In fact, I looked through figures of medical laboratory scientists leaving the country. In fact, it's in that document, and it's quite interesting how the document breaks it down. In total, for the years 2021, let me do 2022. 2022, you had 1,553 leaving the country in total. But then
that's underreported.
That's underreported for you. There you go.
And I'll tell you why. They sourced this data from agencies of government.
Right.
In sourcing data about exodus of healthcare professionals, I expect that government should bring in professional associations who have real-time data on their members that are leaving.
So you think MLSEN doesn't have adequate data?
That's agency of government for regulation, so they wouldn't. We deal with the welfare of our members, so we know when our members die, we know when they give birth, we know when they leave, we know when they marry.
Before they
so
leave,
we have more data.
Before they leave,
migration.
Don't they get letters of good standing and all of that?
Now, many of them who leave go there not even to work in laboratories, for instance. So, and if they do, they ask us to give letters of good standing. It is actually the association that give letters of good standing. All they require from the council is license to practice.
Right.
Most times, the license they have here, when they go abroad, they will require to do some kind of training.
So you think it's double this figure?
Oh, it's a lot more. In fact, this number of 1,000 for that year is just about the number that left in the FCT.
Oh dear. Let's go to Dr. Orji. He has painted that picture, particularly the fact that he thinks this is not specific enough for incentives. It's beautiful, he says, but it's not specific enough for him. Dr. Orji, do you share those sentiments?
Well, I want to start by commending the federal government of Nigeria, particularly the Honorable Minister of Health, for coming up with a policy that is aimed at reducing or even reversing the brain drain we currently have in the health sector. Knowing the minister and having interacted with him on different occasions, I'm convinced that he has what it takes to turn around the fortunes in the health sector. However, just like my co-guest has said, I have a problem with the details in that is lacking in that document. And I also say that we've made this point over and over again, even when I was the president of NAT, that in addressing the issue of brain drain in the health sector, the government should not just on their own come up with a policy without involving the unions and associations in the health sector. Because ultimately, we are the ones on ground. We are the ones interacting with these members directly. We know exactly why they are leaving. And so if you as a government, decide to come up with something like this without consulting the Nigerian Medical Association, with their affiliates, the other health sector unions, it will be difficult for you to come up with a document that will address the root causes of brain drain. You have talked about incentives. What are the details? Because we know that no matter what anybody says, that is the main reason why people are leaving. And so if you do not address that, I find it difficult to believe that any other policy will work. We also have a very important issue, which is the ravaging insecurity in this country. And unfortunately, it looks as if doctors and health workers are now the main target. As we are talking, we have a resident doctor in Kaduna, a female for that matter, Dr. Ganiat Bobola, who has been with the kidnappers over the past 7 months. And I'm sure if you've been listening to me, you will know that even the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors is threatening to go on strike on that matter. And so, and a host of other kidnapping incidents affecting doctors and other health workers. So the government has got to involve the unions and the associations before you come up with a policy like this. Otherwise, I doubt that you are going to address the root causes of brain drain in the health sector. This incentive that is being talked about, what is the details? You say you want to regularly review the wages of doctors and health workers. The recent review that was done, what was it based on? The one that was done last year. The government just offered a percentage, which is not even enough to even restore the value of the salary as at 10 years ago. And so when you keep doing this and you keep looking at other issues without addressing the root cause, which is poor remuneration, it is not going to work. And I also have a feeling, because I glanced through that document, I think I saw a place where the government talked about bonding, where they talked about things that made it look as if there is also a renewed attempt, to restrict the movement of health workers outside the country forcefully. And so if you are looking in that direction, it means that you are totally going off the track, and you are going to worsen what you are trying to prevent. So we are waiting to see the details, and I don't think it is late. The government can still sit down with the unions and the associations in health to at least try to explain in details. Maybe there are things that are not contained in that document, that they may want to explain to us. Let's get to know how the implementation of this policy will work, and then get inputs from them before we can move forward.
Again, because you started by saying you have some faith in the health ministry, which brings me to this question of, it's not just about creating policies. They say the success of any development is in its implementation and, of course, its impact on the people. So looking at what Nigeria has been, maybe the history on implementation and policies and how it has worked over the years in this country, in every sector, not just the health sector, do you still have faith in the health ministry that this can be achieved, that when they call them back, they will be able to give them the deal? I mean, this is like a deal. You say, come back because we have this. So when we come back and you do not provide us with that, what then happens?
And so it goes back to what I have said before. What are the processes? How do you intend to implement this? I have told you that, in fact, scientifically speaking, because when I was the president of NAT, we did studies, because we are also worried about the brain drain in the health sector. Is even affecting us more, because I mean, in a particular unit that you are supposed to have 10 doctors and you have one, it simply means that the person will be overburdened by work. And so it is leading to breakdown, people having burnout syndrome. So on our own, we did a study to find out the major cause of brain drain in the health sector. And the number one cause is poor remuneration. Government has not been able to address. So if you don't address it, people will keep living. And so how do you intend to bring back those who have left? What exactly are they coming back to live on? Because the economic situation is biting harder, and unfortunately, the economic policies of government in the last 1 year has even worsened the condition we are talking about. And so I want to repeat that the government should sit down with the associations. Let us discuss this and then come up with a workable plan on how to improve our fortunes in the health sector. By the way, let's not make any mistake of thinking that the Nigerian health workers are asking to be paid exactly what is paid outside the country. That is not what we are asking for, because we know ultimately that the government cannot afford it. What we are simply asking for is a living wage, something that will be based on statistics. The percentage increment that was given last year was not based on anything. And what we have been asking for is salary restoration. What is the value of our salary? When compared to 2014, like 10 years ago. And so what percentage increment we restore the value of that money? That's what everybody has been asking for. And you are aware that we brought out percentages last year. We brought out 300%. Eventually, when fuel subsidy was removed, and the dollar was floated, the indices changed. So government has got to put all this into consideration, before you talk, because if you are addressing other things, you are not addressing this remuneration issue. I believe strongly that the brain drain in the health sector will not be addressed.
Let's take it to Dr. Kashmir in the other in our Abuja studio. Doctor, I've been listening to some of the things that have been said, and let's put some specifics to it. I'm trying to get all my documents correct now. Dr. Efeanyi, let's put some specifics. So, like Dr. Kashmir has said, Dr. Oji has said, he talked about the fact that you're not expecting them to match up the amount. You mentioned £6,000 or so, and Nigerian payment, I don't know how much the least doctor earns. I don't know how much a consultant earns here. Maybe you can give us that figure so the audience will begin to examine for themselves and know whether this is a workable document. But there are two concerns I want you to speak to. First, I'm wondering why the health ministry, from what both of you have alluded, will come up with a policy document like this, at least a direction, without consulting the association. Is it really that they didn't consult, or the consultation was not wide enough? Because some of the things you're saying is the fact that this data is underreported. 2022 was one of the highest time in migration, both for across all the sectors, in the subsectors in the health sector. So I want you to talk about that issue of engaging association or sub-association as far as collating data is concerned, because we were big on that in that document. Second is, what will be fair? Say a doctor, and I have friends who are doctors across the world, in the UK as well. If a doctor earns, say, £6,000, what will now be fair if you're calling that doctor, say, Dr. XYZ, please come back to Nigeria. We respect the fact that you chose to leave, but we need you here. What will be fair in terms of negotiation? Because we can't match up given our pulse at the moment.
Thank you very much. Like Dr. Oji said, we're not asking Nigerian government to pay equivalents of what our colleagues earn when they go out. That's impracticable in the circumstance we have in Nigeria. But there are pertinent things that we need to speak to. I'll give you an example. He had talked about the wage review that was done for doctors in Nigeria. I want to say that that wage review has not applied to other healthcare professionals, which he said was discretional, and it wasn't empirical. So something was even done, but it wasn't empirical, and it wasn't cross-cutting. So when I talk about condition of service earlier on, I can work in a place, I'm not well remunerated, but if the conditions of service are supportive for me to develop myself, to advance in my career and progress, I would like to stay for other overriding reason. But if I work in a place and it's difficult for me to get promoted when I am due for promotion in the health sector because of the cadre of staff I am or my healthcare professional background, it's a problem. If we have issues about governance, leadership, and direction at the facility points, these are not monetary terms per se. So I talk more about conditions of service. Is it supportive? Do I have a house? Where do I live? So you pay a consultant who lives in Abuja 5, 8, 700, 1 million naira. That consultant, predicated on his salary, cannot live in Wuse 2, cannot live in most parts of the phase 1 of Abuja to work. So there's a lot more to look into if we want to indeed retain the people we have here and make it attractive for those that had gone out to come. I give another example. The highest, a medical laboratory scientist that is at the directorate cadre, a director, his hazard allowance is less than 40,000. It's about 35,000 naira hazard allowance. So if you go down the rung to senior medical lab scientists, you will find out that what they get as hazard will be around 15, 17,000. It used to actually be a pantry sum of 5,000 naira for all the hazard they take. I want to shock you that more than 95% of Nigerian healthcare workers, healthcare professionals particularly, do not have indemnity. They do not have insurance. So in this document, in this policy document, I can't find where it spoke to about providing insurance. If we have insurance, it will speak to the issues of when you are molested by patients' relatives, to speak to the issues of when your life is cut short, either by reason of security breach or other forms of threat. So that's not in place. Part of why people leave is that they are beginning to feel a lot more insecure here. They feel that by reason of their profession, doctor, nurses, med lab scientists, that they are exposed. Other people in the society look up to them as people who they think earn enough to live well, and they had become prey. So you talked about engagement with professional association. I must say that the minister of the Honorable Coordinating Minister of Health, his doors are open. I was actually with him a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke on a whole lot of issues. But for this document, I doubt strongly the level of engagement that took place with my association and other professional associations in the health sector. Now the president had approved the document. Like Dr. Oji also suggested, I would want to suggest that the ministry should stage a workshop to step down this policy, for us to discuss it. It's not cast on stone. If there are improvements, if there are modifications that can be done to the document to make it work, we are concerned that our people are leaving. But I want to say, growing up in Nigeria, I knew when we had plenty Cuban doctors in northern parts of Nigeria. I knew when we had plenty Indian doctors in southern part of Nigeria. Will they still come today? They would not. They were coming then because we had a strong economy, because our remuneration for healthcare professionals, for doctors, were quite attractive. So that's the point. We need to look at what is the missing link. We need to speak to it. The minister yesterday talked about the various lofty interventions that had come. And I consider that a translation of the Renewed Hope agenda to realities in the health sector. About 4 or 5 of them, laudable and commendable. And I can give it to the Honorable Coordinating Minister that he really understands his job and it's cut out for him and is going ahead to indeed take steps to see how he will be able to recover, reinvent the Nigerian health sector. That's why he started in December with the reinvestment program that was launched by Mr. President. Thereafter, the program about infrastructure and equipment in the hospitals located in the 6th geopolitical zone. Thereafter, we also had him come with the executive order on local production of diagnostics, drugs, hospital consumables, laudable interventions coming from the ministry and this particular policy. But we're saying that there are gaps in this policy, and the policy should be considered a work in progress, and there should be more constructive engagement with professional associations to clarify on the gray areas and to remove obnoxious provisions.
All right, Dr. Fine, we hear you. Let's take it to Dr. Oji before I throw it back to my colleague, Kayode. I want you to further speak, Dr. Oji, to this issue of condition of service, because he's mentioned something quite critical. When I told him to draw a comparison and maybe give us some level of markers in terms of how to woo doctors, say, from the UK back to Nigeria, and he was very clear, saying, look, it's a far cry to begin to talk about comparison in numbers, but working condition. So I want you to speak to this working condition issue, which to me and to the audience looks to be one of the major drivers why doctors are leaving, especially those in the rural areas.
Okay, so, it's an important thing because we have also made these suggestions, and that's why I kept hammering on involvement of the professional associations in the health sector before any such policy is implemented. By the way, let me correct that. The salary review that was done last year was done across board. It was not just for doctors and nurses, and we have the document available. In fact, it has even been implemented. What we are talking about is that it was more of government just awarding a percentage, which is not anything to go by in terms of the statistics we have on our hands. Now, you see, this what you're asking about, we include the issue of housing, the issue of cars, the issue of schools for the children of healthcare workers, the issue of training and retraining. Yes, again, to correct, that document has something on insurance for healthcare professionals, but again, there was no details. How is it going to be practically implemented? Take for instance the issue of housing. Why are our doctors not accommodated within the vicinity of the tertiary health institutions? Build houses. Most of these tertiary health, health facilities, they have enough land to accommodate housing units for doctors and other healthcare professionals, which, by the way, government can do in form of mortgage. If you are taking it from their salary every month, just small percentage, and someone has like 5 or 10 years to pay up, I have a feeling the person will not want to leave. What about the issue of cars, and other amenities that can easily be accessible by these doctors and nurses? So it's about sitting down and discussing how do we incentivize these the work of these healthcare professionals so that they will have enough confidence in the system. We should not also forget the issue of infrastructural deficit in the health sector, because again, the other is also an important factor, because as a doctor, if you have your patient before you and you know what to do to help that patient, but you do not have enough infrastructure, you do not have enough equipment to take care of the patient, and the patient dies in front of you. So many doctors have gone into depression because of that. And so I want to repeat, the remuneration should be taken care of. The other welfare issues should be taken care of, because it's only when you do that people will have enough confidence in the system. What about insecurity? Now, you talked about the rural areas. How many, in fact, it's not just doctors. How many people will want to go and stay in the rural areas, especially in all those isolated places without security? Has there been any effort to build or to construct these health facilities in the rural areas in a way that it will be secure, with perimeter fencing, with housing units within the premises, with security around that place? Because no matter how much you pay anybody to stay in the rural community, if the safety of the person is not guaranteed, he will simply be making that money for kidnappers. So we are asking for a holistic discussion on this thing, because that is the only way people can bring in their ideas. Government does not know it all. Government should engage the professional associations before we come up with something that is workable.
So talking about, this is to Dr. Kashmir, talking about things that is maybe something that is workable. We know that not all stakeholders were engaged in this decision or policy making and creating it. If you were to be involved and say your own part on what should be in this document, maybe contained in this document, that is workable and something that holds water, and people will see reasons why they should remain in this country and work for this country, what will be the content that you'd be advising? The real detail, not just something shallow or something just written.
You see, the healthcare industry or sector is a tapestry of professionals. And I quote succinctly the Honorable Coordinating Minister of Health yesterday evening. And if that is the case, whenever we want to make policy, whenever we want to draft condition of service, we must take cognizance of that fact and not create a situation where we have discriminatory policies or unacceptable parity in remuneration. These are issues. This discrimination extends to area of training. I give you an example. Apart from Nigerian doctors who are supported to do residency training, no other healthcare professional in Nigeria is supported to do such postgraduate training. So these are conditions that now we're discussing training, and the minister is really passionate about retraining and training of frontline health workers. We should clarify on who is the frontline health worker. If you look at the training ongoing, the target is about 120,000. The minister said they have trained about 10,000. How many of these are members of what I call and what is globally known as core clinical profession? They are basically four: the doctor, the med lab scientist, the nurse, the pharmacist. Core clinical. There can be other clinical service providers, but these are the core clinical. So in the training program that we have today, how many of the rest of the core clinical services benefit from government-funded and supported training to acquire new skills, to advance in career? These are issues. Now, these members of this profession, like pharmacists, are appointed consultants. Government releases circular appointing them consultants, and it becomes a basis for crisis. I talked about the increase, and I said it was not empirical, because I do also have documents where the commerce salary scale were serially reviewed, whereas the current salary structure was paused. So if after you have increased one salary structure 2-3 times, and you now say you are doing a review that is cross-cutting, which is even discretional, and you use your discretion, not empirical, to add money across board, it cannot be considered to be across board, because the parity gap had become wider than what it used to be. So these are some issues we need to discuss. We must free up opportunities for training and retraining, for building capacity. Healthcare is like a tripod. You cannot continue to extend one leg of the tripod. It will topple. That's why we have issues. And we're talking about Japa syndrome, exodus of healthcare workers. I want the Federal Ministry of Health to deploy the WHO Wilson to workload indicator staffing needs. So we really know who is on ground, how many doctors are on ground, how many patients do they see per day, and what is the working hours. If we enter the laboratories, how many medical laboratory scientists are on ground? How many samples do they analyze? I know a tertiary hospital in Abuja where you can count in one hand the whole med lab scientists in that place, and it is like a wholesale marketplace in terms of patient volume. Right. So a lot needs to be done. As we speak about Japa syndrome, my young med lab scientists in Nigeria, if I provide you data on unemployed medical laboratory scientists that are roaming the streets, that are underemployed, that is unemployed, underemployed, underremunerated, they are in large number, and they account for people who are now living In fact, I had one who just left. They live in number. That's why I said the number from the Medical Absence Council of Nigeria, of course, a good data source, but it's an underreported data because the 1,000 for 2022 alone is just about the number that left between the hospitals in Federal Capital Territory administration and other adjoining hospitals in their city.
And it paints a really dire picture, really, Dr. Ifeanyi. As we begin to coast home, two things to mention. You were talking about data. And from that document as well, and part of the introductory, preamble says that what Nigeria has, at least for the doctors, is less than 1 doctor to 1,000 people. The WHO recommends at least 4+ doctors to 1,000. So that paints a picture. And it's important to get that data so we know where we're at, because some of those data are even years ago. Yes. So only God knows where we're at right now. That's on the one hand. In terms of engagement, looking through that document, and particularly last page, you see that at least 146 different organizations, associations actually, were part of that. NMA, the Association of Private Practitioners. It's interesting. I saw, well, your council, not the association. So the question then will be, doesn't the council also speak in some sense for all of the practitioners? Is there some sort of division? Because it's expected that if you have the council represents all of the members who are in the association.
The council is the police for the profession.
And you don't trust this police?
No, hold on. The police is agent of government for enforcement, for regulation, enforcement of compliance. So if you think that engaging with the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria will suffice, and you therefore do not want to engage the Nigerian Medical Association.
Medical and Laboratory Science
Yes,
Council.
I'm giving you an example.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is that we must know that councils are agents of government, they're MDAs of government, and they cannot speak in terms of the welfare of practitioners. It is their professional associations and union that can really speak on the welfare and the real-time conditions of their members. Having said that, you just reminded me of councils. In this wonderful document that we have, and we all commend it, I hope you know that this year's budget for health is 5.21%. It has not dwarfed what it used to be since the return of democracy. We expect that these lofty ideas will come with a budgetary provision for the health sector that should dwarf what it has been, that should go up to support these provisions. I also want to remind you, one of the good things that the Honorable Coordinating Minister had done is that there was this policy of government to remove the regulatory councils you mentioned from budget line. The minister provided explanation and justified it. I will commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for restoring them into the budget line. Right. But 8 months down the line, workers in the 14 regulatory agencies, Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria, the list is 14. They are yet to be paid salaries. So how will that police what we do? Well, Dr. Ifeanyi, you've always heard that police is your friend, but I don't know what's going on in this case. But let's begin to wind down. Dr. Orji, it looks like both of you agree in terms of the fact that this document can be better. It is good, but it can be better in terms of more engagement. And I wonder what that would look like, and specificity. At the heart of this is really money and funds. But you people disagree on that increase. I mean, you say that it looked like it was across board. Dr. Ifeanyi says, well, no, he mentioned the CONMES and CONHES. For the average Nigerian, they might not understand, and they're wondering, what is the way forward? That is what the average Nigerian wants. They want to be able to go to the hospital and get the care that they deserve and desire. So as your final thoughts, really, what will be the way forward for you? We know at the heart of this is money. The document says federal, state, local, and even the private sector must be involved in all of this. So final words for you, Dr. Orji.
Thank you very much. I've actually made effort not to dwell in areas of disagreement between doctors and other healthcare.
We can disagree to agree, Dr. Orji. It's okay.
They deliberate, but it's in the public domain that the salary review, 25% and 35%, that was done last year by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, cut across board. What the other healthcare workers have been asking for over the years is to erode what we call relativity in the health sector. And that is a very long discussion that I do not want to go into. Now, in concluding, I want to also renew my commendation for the government, particularly the Minister of Health, because at least now we have gone from the days of government feigning ignorance of the Japa syndrome. So now where the government has now realized the crippling effect of the mass exodus of doctors and healthcare workers, and they are even attempting to do something about it. The only thing personally I'm quarreling with is the manner in which this document was produced. I do not have any information that there was an extensive engagement of the Nigerian Medical Association and its affiliate, and indeed other healthcare workers before this was produced. Because if that was done, I believe that the attention of government would have been drawn to the very vital, salient issues that we believe strongly are the drivers of this brain drain in the health sector. And you talked about funding. Yes, my co-guest has also talked about it. Whatever you do and you do not meet up with even the Abuja Declaration of 2001, which effectively had Nigeria enter into an agreement to ensure that 15% of annual budgetary allocation goes to health. If you do not, release or rather budget enough to the health sector, I'm wondering where you are going to get resources to take care of all the needs in terms of the remuneration, the infrastructural needs, the personnel challenges, and the host of other things that you need to incentivize the services we render to our patients. So I want to appeal that the government should sit down with everyone to discuss this issue. And I believe that if that is done, government will come to realize what the real issues are and tackle them head on in order for us to save the health sector. What we are talking about is a serious matter.
Dr. Oje. Yeah, so, absolutely.
Thank you.
Point taken. And there are lots of Nigerians out there who want to come back, do good things in the health sector. The question again is there a policy to properly absorb them and give them that ease of business or doing business, the funding as well to do all of that? But we have to thank you, gentlemen. It's still early days. After this cursory look, we'll do a deeper dive into this to ensure that our health sector is better for it. Dr. Casimir Ifeanyi, the National President, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time, as well as Dr. Emeka Orji, former National President of Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you as well.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, there's what may be described as a pandemic of kidney diseases. What is responsible for it? Some say it's in the food, some others say it's in the water. We're getting to the heart of this issue this morning. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
The preliminary studies reveal that we have traces of lead, cadmium, and other heavy metals in the water and in some of the vegetables, grown here. And you see, most of these vegetables, they are not even processed. They are taken without being processed. Take, for instance, cabbage and then fruits.
From the investigation, we were able to see that there are hotspots, especially this community, Yobe, Jakusko and Bede local government. We have a lot of people coming from those one. In Borno State, we've got a contrary one in southern part of Borno, in Askira Uba, as well as Haul local government, which is a rocky terrain. We also found hotspots in Hadejia.
Welcome back. This is still the morning brief on Channels Television. And now we turn our attention as we continue in the health sector, but this time to a killer disease, which for some it is slowly, and for others, if you do not find it early, it's just like a death sentence. It's kidney disease, which is now prevalent in northern Yobe. It's in Yobe State, but it's been found that the most cases are in northern Yobe. And we have heard there from stakeholders saying that they have found lead in water, but some other sources can lead to kidney disease. There are other factors that can lead to it. And there's also research on what the outcome of this research or findings will be. We'll have stakeholders talk about that on the program today. And via Zoom, joining us on the program is Chief Medical Director, Yobe State University Teaching Hospital in Damaturu, Dr. Baba Waru Goni. We also have Dr. Mahmoud Meinabuka, who's the Honorary Special Advisor to Yobe State Governor on Science, Research and Innovation. He's a team lead founder Biomedical Research, a Science Research and Training Center, Yobe State University in Damaturu. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen, on the program.
Thank you.
So let me start with you. All right, let me start with you, Dr. Gune. We've heard there about lead poisoning in water and other things, but you are there, you have firsthand experience and information about what is actually going on, the issue on ground, the numbers. Speak to us about what is going on at the moment and how this was even discovered.
Thank you very much. What happened is we found out that, we've been seeing excesses of chronic kidney failure, especially coming from communities along the fringes of the River Yobe. Which is a continuation of the, Hadejia Jamara River, which is one of the tributaries of the Lake Chad. We noticed that there are a lot of people coming from those communities with chronic kidney failure. And various preliminary work has been done by different researchers, especially on the water and soil in such communities. And that had, as Professor Maimuna Waziri, the Vice Chancellor of the Federal Investigation had alluded to, most of these usually heavy metals, usually lead and cadmium, were found to be excessively high, beyond the acceptable level by the World Health Organizations. But these were different researches. So the next thing is to link this thing to humans. Look at the levels of these metals in human beings and then do some environmental assessment also. But in the interim, the Yobe State government has for the past 7 years has been, rendering free hemodialysis services for people who are having chronic renal failure. At the moment, at our facility, we do about 600 sessions of free hemodialysis every month, courtesy of the Yobe State government. His Excellency Honorable Malabuni has recently even reviewed upwards the monthly standing payment because of the inflationary trend in the country. Apart from that, also, along with Dr. Maina, we're also going to collaborate with international, reputable scientists to look at both the remote and the immediate cause of this prevalent kidney failure in those communities. We've also been to Egypt, Arab Republic of Egypt, a few years ago, to Urology and Nephrology Center in Mansoura, which was one of the first centers in the Middle East and Africa to start kidney transplants, with a view of training our doctors here to commence kidney transplant. Because, kidney disease is it's a very expensive disease. Dialysis is an entry measure, though people can live on dialysis for as long as possible. But at the end, you need to, if the person has an end-stage kidney disease, he needs to have kidney transplant. And at the moment, a lot of people cannot afford those services. So that's why His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Yobe State, sent a high-powered delegation to Egypt with a view of going into MOU so that these services can be brought to the doorstep of our people here in Yobe State. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Buka, let me go to you. You are in government. I mean, you were working as a special advisor on Yobe, to Yobe Governor on Science, Research and Innovation, which means that you also know firsthand what infrastructure is like in that part of northern Yobe where this has become prevalent. What is the structure in terms of providing boreholes or potable water in that region?
Thank you very much for having me. I'd like to respond by reversing to the earlier statement that you mentioned about lead and other things. Because when there is a problem, the scientific approach to solving that problem first has to be going deeper to investigate the different hypotheses on ground. So at the moment, we know that there is the issue about heavy metals in the water and perhaps the soil, but we have to also take note of other potential causes for this condition, because in the world right now, over 850 million people are affected by kidney-related diseases. So there could be other factors. And in this research that Dr. Goni did mention, what we are going to be doing is to extensively gather environmental data, perhaps genetic data, as well as lifestyle data that can allow us now to connect the different dots together. This will now allow us to say, for example, could it be primarily due to heavy metal poisoning in the water, which might now allow us to make recommendations for policy or public health interventions, or could it be something entirely different? So this is why I am a bit hesitant at this moment to say whether boreholes, what should be done to boreholes, or that we have to first get the full research data and then make informed decisions based on it.
Doctor, let me stay with you on this one. The dialysis, according to what I've read, is about 50,000 naira per session. Correct me if I'm wrong. And these poor people are coming in. Yobe is one of the poorest states in Nigeria. In fact, the third most dependent state on IGR, on FAC. It's one of the numbers don't look good in terms of fiscal performance for whatever reason. So this is supposed to be something that literally should be in a state of emergency. Besides these scientific processes you're conducting to find out further root causes, what behavioral changes are you advising the people? Because they say prevention is better than cure, which is why I started from the fact of how poor the state is. So that is a dilemma on its own based on the data we have. What behavioral changes are you advising the people so that they don't even, is it that they should stop drinking the water, or water supply is quite different? Anne has talked about borehole. What exactly are you advising to even the people that have not caught up this disease, God forbid, not to get it in the first place?
Well, if you look at kidney disease worldwide, we are now experiencing an epidemiologic transition, particularly in low and middle income countries like sub-Saharan Africa. Worldwide, the commonest cause of chronic kidney failure, usually diabetes, hypertension, and then a chronic infection of the kidney, which is referred to in the medical, balance as chronic glomerulonephritis. So, by and large, the messages are that people should go for checkup because, it's a very silent disease. By the time it becomes manifest, a lot of functions of the kidney must have gone by then. So, regular checkup of blood pressure, blood sugar, exercise, smoking should be quitted, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the water, at the moment, there is no conclusive research at the moment linking the two. But as I had alluded to earlier, preliminary works have shown that, there are heavy metals in the area. In case, research, is able to pinpoint that, environmental toxins are responsible, then, recommendation will now be made about how you go about removing those toxins, either from the water or from the food chain. And there are various methods to that, which is too early at the moment to speculate. But generally, when it comes to, lifestyle changes, kidney disease is like any other what we are getting is excess of the normal. Generally, the trend in developing countries, most of these non-communicable diseases are at the moment on the increase, perhaps due to sedentary lifestyle.
Doctor, my apologies, doctor. The reason I'm asking this question, that's why I started from an economic point of view. Yobe started 2022 in a whole year. They didn't make up the 10 billion naira, 10 billion as the IGR. So without fact, they can't survive. And I'm repeating that just to posit how bad the financial situation is. I don't know what it is now, but these are the records we have available to us. So if you say it's out of the normal, I expect some maybe out of the normal response beyond what we're seeing for the sake of the poor people.
Sorry, it's all about prioritization. If Yobe is on the in terms of IGR, we're at the lower level, but the state government is prioritizing the health of its citizens. That's why for the past 7 years, even during the COVID-19 pandemic, the state government had never stopped free dialysis for even a day in the state. And I'm just talking, this is just one aspect. If you look at the other aspect of the health sector, there are a lot of tremendous development that were achieved. So it's not the amount of money that you have that will determine what you offer to your citizens. It's your commitment and prioritization of the importance of their health. Yobe State has been, won even, accolades in terms of the state that must improve state in immunization, in primary health care and so on and so forth. We have 178 wards in the state. At the moment, the state government has constructed more than 140 functional primary health care, in all the political wards. So almost 80% of the wards are covered. And these are functional. We're offering services. The state health insurance is now, even into the non-formal sector, in which a lot of our citizens are now accessing healthcare, without undergoing catastrophic financial difficulties. So it's all about prioritizing, the welfare of your citizens above and all. I'm not we're not comparing ourselves with the big, boys in terms of IGR and so on and so forth. But I think our state government is prioritizing the health and welfare of the citizens.
All right, Dr. Yes, go ahead.
Comment on that. I completely agree with my brother and the CMD, Dr. Goni, because I think it's all about prioritization of the citizens and also building something that is going to offer long-term solutions. So in the research sphere, for example, 3 years ago, with the backing of the state government, His Excellency Honorable Memala Buni, we established a state-of-the-art research center, which has some of the best equipment in Nigeria. For example, we have 2 confocal microscopes that are not to be found in any place in Nigeria. For the last 3 years, we have been training people on how to utilize these resources to start addressing local problems, because this is part of the long term. And so if you now look at the issue of the IGR being low, and then you compare it to the investment being made, you will see that the steps being taken are bold in terms of trying to address local solutions through research that can offer long-term solution to the people.
All right, Dr. Buka, let me continue with you on this one. We've talked about management. I'm sure my colleague, when he was asking about managing this and letting people know, oh, this disease is out there, what is the government doing in terms of awareness and campaigns? Also letting people know the real reason why they should be cautious, especially at this moment, knowing that it is on the rise in Northern Yobe especially. And when you talk about research also, what are you doing to hasten the idea? We know you talked about lead not being maybe not the main factor causing this right now. So it means that there are many other factors that can cause kidney disease. So how impactful would your research be in hastening it to know the actual cause and what is going on? So if it is water, then you know how to address it in that part of the country. So these are 2 questions talking about awareness and how your research will impact solving this problem in that part of the country.
All right, so let me just make it clear. I did not say that it's probably not the water, but rather when we are doing a scientific investigation, we have to come with an open mind, which means that we look at the water, we look at the soil, we look at genetics, we look at so many different things in order to arrive at a solution. And this issue has been going on for quite a while. Last year, I led His Excellency and his delegation to the United Kingdom, where we visited institutions like the Crick Institute London, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, University of York, University of Sussex, and other places, where we had a meeting with some of the best scientists working on kidney diseases. And as part of that, we now formed a working group or a research team, which led to a work that Dr. Goni was talking about that enabled us to look at different kind of states, Jigawa, Yobe, and Borno, and allowed us to now look at, see the hotspots. Now, based on this research, it enabled us to now suggest that the next phase is population studies, where we now try to look at, for example, the extent and the prevalence of the problem, assess the risk factors, and this will now involve us looking at collecting water sample, soil sample, food chain sample, blood samples, as well as to look at the genetics that will allow us now to compare everything together to make a kind of arrive at a conclusion. But I have to say that research is a time-consuming process. It requires patience, and this is just the beginning of the solution. And I'll give you an example. If you look at it, for example, we have so many different diseases, let's say Alzheimer's disease, that has been discovered over 100 years ago, and we still don't have a solution. Because of what? Because it requires time. And in this situation, we are saying that we have started working on a solution, which hopefully within a year, we might have an answer. But it may also take us longer than that time. And we are so happy that there is a commitment from the government to ensure that the research, yields a good result and it continues to address the problems of the people. And in terms of awareness, there has been many awareness, and I'm pretty sure my colleague CND might probably say more about that. But already, this is why we went to the Bade Emirate to see His Royal Highness the Emir of Bade to give him an update about our preliminary data and research that is now going to start in order to seek community support and also for His Emirate to become aware of what is to come in trying to find a solution to the problem.
I'll stay with you just momentarily. I'll stay with you. I think both of you provide a very interesting perspective. You can give us also government drive towards this, as well as the medical and research angle. I'm still saying with Dr. Maina Bukar, and then before I come to Dr. Warugoni. But Dr. Maina Bukar, speak to us about this, the prevalence. I need us to reestablish the prevalence. For a lot of people, there's a tendency to think, oh, it's not a big deal. It doesn't concern me until it concerns them. So speak to us about the figures, the data that you have on ground. I know people have been posting on social media, doing videos, mourning and all that. But what have you found so far in terms of prevalence, the figures?
So at least based on the preliminary data that is currently being peer reviewed, we found that in 100,000 people, about 11 have this condition in body, for example. And if we go to, let's say, Askira Oba, that is about 6 in 100,000, and Jigawa, I believe, is about 5. But I have to caution you here. Our work focuses on looking at the patients that have been admitted to the dialysis unit in these different locations, Jigawa, Yobe, and Borno. So this is why now we need to go into population studies, where we are going to assess the situation at the population level to arrive at the more accurate estimate of the problem.
All right. And you referenced Alzheimer's earlier on, saying this has been discovered decades ago. But the tricky part is for Alzheimer's, the cause is quite complex, even to date. We're not quite sure about the cause. Even treatment is very tricky as well. But for kidney disease, it's preventable. And we heard the prof earlier on saying that, preliminary findings point to possibilities of cadmium, very dangerous materials, lead, either in the water or in the fruits. And they're not even processed just yet. These are things that are harvested and eaten straight up. So let me come to Dr. Warugoni on this one and just speak to, first, this is preventable clearly, and a lot of people are saying stay off water, stay off some of those foods that you've been taking. Is that something that is backed scientifically and something that is being put out there so people can maybe stay safe for this period while you find the real cause, and then we can know what to do. I know Jeffrey spoke to that earlier on, Dr. Warugoni.
Well, you at the risk of being an alarmist, you don't close your mind when it comes to research. You want to look at all the possibilities. At the moment, if, for example, what about if you?
All right. Well, we'll come back to you later, but let's go to Dr. Maina Bukar while we try to resolve that. And I know you want to say something to that, Dr. Maina Bukar, but Jeffrey, Anne, you can take it up now.
All right, so let's stay with Dr. Maina on this particular one. Doctor, let's begin to walk to the future. Kind of asked questions about prevalence in the first place, and you've listed a couple of things in terms of prevalence. Going forward as a government, how long more do you think the government can cope with a high burden in terms of cost? I know both of you have mentioned the issue of priority, but it's a long-term journey. If they can find transplant, and even when they do a transplant, for instance, for those who are already victims, maintenance and all of that, what is a long-term game for those who government is supporting at the end? And how long is this going to be?
All right, this is a very good question. And you rightly mentioned that, transplant, and even the dialysis that is being done, these are all palliative solutions. They are also realistically probably unsustainable, because what you really want to do is to address the problem even before it starts, or we want to arrive at a time when we can even start to make predictions. But we are fortunate that in the Yobe State government, His Excellency is really, really into supporting research. Like I mentioned earlier on, in addition to having a state-of-the-art biomedical research and training center, which are some of the equipment that no any other place has in the country, or the government is also investing very, very heavily on building local capacity. So now this center that we have established, the idea is to be able to have an infrastructure that can allow us to train researchers to begin to address problems, not just kidney disease, but also all other problems, in such a way that we don't have to go out of the country to address those things. So in the last 3 years, the government, for example, has allowed us to train over 450 people in different areas in the biomedical science space. They have also built a center that we will be moving into by the end of the year that will allow us to move all this equipment and the new equipment that are coming in. So as part of the long-term solution, therefore, we are looking at two things. We are looking at going into deepening understanding of this kidney-related problem that will allow us to arrive at evidence-based solution that can allow the government to either make policy recommendations on what to do or not, and also maybe public health interventions, and maybe also we may arrive at a conclusion where lifestyle changes need to be changed. But importantly, also the capacity that we will continue to build at that state-of-the-art center will allow our researchers going into the future to be able to kind of understand these issues and even make predictions. For example, this year we had an artificial intelligence workshop in the center where people were trained on how to use AI in, for example, increasing efficacy in their research, in their training. And this AI, we want to continue kind of training people on how to use it to make predictions, because it's part of the future. In the future, we might end up saying, you know what, this society or this particular local government might end up having this and this because of X and Y that they have. And therefore, based on this, we have to start making X and Y interventions. And this is the future that we are looking at.
All right. Quite interesting, really. Let me come back to Dr. Warugoni now and get him to land on the thoughts, your reactions, and then, of course, if you want to speak to the point raised about the way forward, Dr. Warugoni.
Yeah, I want to speak on the prevalence first.
Right.
Generally, the prevalence of chronic kidney disease from previous work in the country, between 6 to 10%, generally, most works are pointing towards that. What we found out in our own case is that we use dialysis as a surrogate, because if we want to really know the prevalence, we must go into the community. As I told you, a lot of the cases are asymptomatic. They may not have come to the hospital. So we use people attending dialysis centers for renal replacement therapy as surrogate, and that's why we got the hotspots in those communities that you had earlier mentioned. When you talk about in case at the end of the day you found out that it is this heavy metal, the method is that there is a reverse osmosis and other recommendations that can be made in the water so that those heavy metals, right from, like, if you sink a borehole, you use a reverse osmotic method, you filtrate and remove those heavy metals before humans will be able to consume it. These are all simple methods that can be used in case you arrive at a conclusion to prevent people from further being affected by these kidney ailments. Of course, lifestyle change for general possession of kidney disease. At the state level, dialysis in itself, in advanced countries, people live on dialysis for decades. And we are improving on that. We have people here who have been on dialysis for 5 years, for example. They are coming to the center to attend that. So it's a form of renal replacement therapy. Yes, it is sustainable, but with the state-owned health insurance, later on, perhaps there could be transition in which people will be paying maybe 10% of the total cost, and government will be able to sustain such programs. As the transplant services is also a way of building the capacity of our healthcare workers, because even at the moment we have centers in the country where kidney transplant is being done, but most of them are private and it's quite expensive. So you can do it at a public. This thing, you can train our healthcare workers, and such services can be rendered in the long run. Right. Because we solve this problem, that doesn't mean that kidney disease will cease to exist, because there are other causes which will continue to affect people, like hypertension, diabetes, and stuff like that. So because of that, you need to also continue with such services. We are not saying that when you discover the cause, you stop such services. No, it doesn't happen that way. I hope you do understand.
Yes, absolutely. So again, I want this message to hit home. Everyone watching right now, again, don't think that because you're not in Yobe State, you're not in Borno, Jigawa, you're not affected. Everybody eats some sort of meal. In fact, some of the fruits grown there can be brought to other parts of the country and you eat it. So I want this to be all hands on deck kind of approach. So, Doctor, give us some sort of recommendations. This is like free consultation. For those who may be asymptomatic, what should they look out for? What kind of diet should they be on? What kind of meals should they eat such that they can reduce either the prevalence, the impact, or just mitigate this? So this is a free consultation, Doctor.
Generally, as part of health promotion, people should come for regular checkup in the hospital. Check your blood pressure regularly, check your blood sugar level, you exercise. Some of these social vices like smoking, excessive drinking of alcohol and other things should be stopped, control of weight and so on. These are general measures to control most of these cardiovascular diseases as well as, kidney diseases. Then for those communities, as I've told you, a research is going on at the moment. It will be too early for us to say people stop drinking water or this thing. But since we have already commenced this research, we have done community advocacy level, we are at the planning level, soon we are going into the community. And I understand that at the other end, even in Jigawa, some work has been going on. So by the time, you tie the knots here and there, you'll be able to arrive at a conclusion. As I have told you, if it's due to heavy metals, there are solutions that could be recommended. If they are due to other causes also, equally there's going to be solutions. Mind you, the international working group that we are working with, especially those from the UK, United Kingdom, they are also working in Central America, in Southeast Asia, and even in East Africa, in which they found out excess of chronic kidney failure in agricultural communities. In some of those areas, they have identified things like pesticides, for example. In other areas, they couldn't still, put down their finger on one thing. So there are a lot of things that are going on. But as I can assure you, the state government is so committed. They have already given money for the research. And I'm sure in the not too distant future, we're going to arrive, at a conclusion, and then solutions will be proposed to those communities so that more lives could be saved, courtesy of the Yobe state government. Thank you.
Dr. Maina, free consultation of sorts, diets, lifestyle changes. What should we be looking at as a people generally, so we can protect our kidneys and ensure that at least we stay alive for the good of family, ourselves, and the nation?
I just want to go back a bit to say that at the moment, we still cannot conclusively say that the food items or things being produced in those communities is bad. So we have to be a bit careful in making those interpretations. We have to wait until the research is concluded before we can make such conclusions. But overall, as a researcher and a scientist, I think for me, my consultation is more like to seek support from the community to say that we are aware of what is going on, and with your support, we will find the root cause of this problem. But also to say that in addition to the funding that has been provided by the state government, like you rightly mentioned, kidney disease.
Dr. Muna, Dr. Menabuka, pardon me, just to be clear, this is from the preliminary findings that Professor Maimuna Waziri, the VC of Federal University, Geshua, Yobe State, spoke about. It's from the preliminary findings, where she talked about cadmium, lead, possibilities of that in water, cabbage, and the rest. So that is strictly from the preliminary findings, just to put that in context. Let's go ahead.
Fantastic. So, like I was saying, I think in like you mentioned, kidney disease is something that affects diverse population, not just Yobe, Borno, Jigawa, but other parts of the country, Africa, and the world. And we are glad that the government of Yobe State is providing the funding to allow us to start understanding this. But I would also like to encourage that this is something that will require, hello? Okay, this is something, but there is a need.
Dr. Mahmoud Mainabuka, thank you very much. I guess we have network issues from Abuja, but thank you so much, gentlemen. Dr. Baba Warugoni, the Chief Medical Director, Yobe State University Teaching Hospital, Damaturu. Thank you for your time on the program. And Dr. Mahmoud Mainabuka, the Honorary Special Advisor to Yobe Governor on Science, Research and Innovation, is also the team lead founder, Biomedical Science Research and Training Center, Yobe State University, Damaturu. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and we hope that the people and, of course, the government will do well to tackle this issue on kidney disease.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the feedback we have gotten from you. Thank you very much for sending in all your comments and everything on WhatsApp. So we'll be taking some of the feedback, especially on X also. And this one is coming from Watchtowers. It says that the reversal of the Japa trend, which is what we had discussed when we're talking about trending, it says the reversal of the Japa trend in the health sector in Nigeria can only be possible if the politicians and their children, starting from the president, reverse going abroad for medical care.
And this one is coming from YouTube. Edward Chima owner says the federal government should take over the health sector across board. Here in the UK, NHS staff are paid same amount no matter where you work in the country.
And take a look at this one from Beauty Beholders saying, people will always seek better opportunities. It's global. Nigerians have always been like that. Remember the old song, Jingle by Onyekanwenu, God bless her memory. And 3, we're not asking the right questions, especially in the health sector. And that's why this is all hands on deck. You need to engage as well. So let us know. We'll be doing a deep dive into this, what those questions should be.
All right. So away from health right now, this is just an advisory to you. If you are in Lagos, and Anthony, Maryland to Ojota is seriously blocked. That is the news we're reaching us right now. Avoid this route if you're going that route. We advise people to use the Anthony Bagada route if you are going to Ketu and Ikorodu. So this is just to tell you, our viewers, that Anthony, Maryland to Ojota is seriously blocked at this moment. So you might just want to reroute somehow, find somewhere else. Or if you do not have to go out, then just stay home or stay in the office and while they clear this route. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. This is the morning brief, and we're drawing the cuttings right now. Thanks for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.
All right, absolutely. So in Lagos, we don't call it Anthony, we call it Anthony.
No, please, Anthony.
Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeff Rozongo.
And be careful if you're in a bus. You'd better say Anthony. But I wish you the very best in Lagos. I'll stay here in Abuja without the traffic. Thank you so much.
Just keep rubbing it in. You're back here to reality. In Lagos.
I take it.
We're waiting for you.
But Sunrise Daily. Sunrise Daily is next year. I'm Kayode Kikilo. Goodbye.